Welcome in to Bears Weekly, powered by IGS Energy, a Chicago Bears network production. Bears Weekly is brought to you by Advocate Healthcare, Athletico Physical Therapy, CDW, Connie's Pizza, IGS Energy, and Miller Lite. Here are your hosts, Jeff Joniak, a.k.a. the Mayor of Bearsville, and his sidekick, Tom the Surfmaster Thayer.
And appreciate you joining us tonight, everybody. Welcome in the ESPN studio. Spinning the dials tonight for us is Justin Pottinger. And thanks to our producers, Dan Barilli, Jordan Treadup from the Bears, and the executive producer of the Bears Radio Network, Eric Estrasi. Coming up, we got a fun interview with Bears linebacker and special teams ace Amen Ogbongbemiga, a portion of our Bears Etc. podcast interview with former 1990s Bear defensive tackle Tim Ryan, now the radio analyst of the San Francisco 49ers. And he has podium Thursday at Hallis, so we hear a portion of new offensive coordinator, receivers coach Chris Beatty, the man who will call the defense Sunday in Santa Clara, Eric Washington, and special teams coordinator Richard Hightower. And good evening to my broadcast partner. That's Tom Thayer. I'm Jeff Joniak. Tom, how you feeling?
Oh, I feel good. Weather is a changing for sure. I was looking at a little bit of the Notre Dame women's basketball play in Texas, and they showed a little bit of the weather outside of South Bend, Indiana campus, and it's just like I remember, a terrific snowstorm in the middle of December, and here we are getting ready to go to Santa Clara, California, to watch the introduction. There's a lot of new names in that introduction, and so it's really going to be something to watch this weekend. I am excited to see how everything is put together and what the next step is.
Does it feel like a new 5-game season for you then, with that being said? Because when you look at the 49ers also, it's a shell of what they've been because of injury.
It does, because, when you look at a 4-8 team going against a 5-7 team in Santa Clara, and there was high hopes for both of these football teams. Now there's dramatic changes on both of these football teams, some in the coaching staff and some on the playing field. So it's not like you're going in this game knowing exactly what to expect. You're going into this game with a lot of high expectations, not knowing what to expect.
All right. I hope they look at it the same way, and I assume they will. Thomas Brown has been a very impressive figure in this building all season long, but now in the forefront, and certainly what we've seen in our interactions with him, very impressed with what he has to say, what his vision is, how he wants the team to play, how they want to focus on certain aspects of things, and it's carried on through the rest of these guys, the coaching staff.
Well, yeah, the offense hasn't let me down since Thomas Brown has taken over the offensive side of the football, and I'm always excited to watch Caleb Williams every snap, to watch his evolution into a really good football player, a good quarterback for the future of this football team. But I'm also interested to see how the message of Thomas Brown, the head coach, carries through the locker room on the defensive side of the ball, the special teams, and how it all fits together.
All right. This segment of Bears Weekly brought to you by IGS Energy. So let's go to some of the news of the day. Got to kick it off with this. All 32 of the NFL teams giving their nominee for the Walter Payton Man of the Year Award. It's the most prestigious honor short of winning the Super Bowl, but as a person off the field, what the contributions are, it's a significant honor. And defensive tackle Andrew Big Bill Billings has been named the Bears nominee for this award. He's done a lot in the community, has done throughout the course of his career. Unfortunately, unable to play the rest of this season for the Bears due to injury, but a big figure on the inside of that defense that they definitely miss.
Oh, I think it's just awesome, because it's not so much what you do on the field, it's what you're willing to do off the field. And for a lot of these guys, those types of things are important to them. A couple weeks ago, we did an interview with Elijah Hicks, and you talk about what he wants to do off the season. But now the recognition that Billings is getting in a national scope of his contributions to the communities and the different places he's been, I have a lot of admiration for him as a football player, but now I have more admiration for him for what he's trying to accomplish outside the white lines.
Eric Washington is his defensive coordinator, and he'll be calling plays. He did in Carolina for a bit, did certainly in the preseason as well, but he'll look at this 49er outfit and see what he can do to stop that thing from getting back together on the right track with Brock Purdy at quarterback. Let's listen into a portion of his news conference today here at Hallis Hall.
At first glance, you see all of the signatures of a Kyle Shanahan-led offense. Really, really intent on running the football. When they are at their best, they're averaging 30 rushing attempts per game. They complement that with the play action and boot. They utilize screens to slow down your rush. And obviously Kittle is a primary target. I mean, he can be a matchup issue depending on what you're doing. So we have to do a really good job of making sure that we have him, we are aware of where he is at all times, and we execute and we stop him from gaining explosive plays. Deebo Samuel, very versatile player. He can align in multiple positions. He can play tailback. He can be a slot receiver. He can be a wide receiver. He is the key to everything that they desire to do. Very versatile player, strong, possession guy, can also get behind you, a runner once he possesses the football. So we have to be aware of that and make sure that we understand how they're utilizing him and that we do a good job of managing his personnel packages. But at the end of the day, it's about what we need to do as a defense. And we're looking forward to putting forth our best effort, starting with making sure that we attack and control the line of scrimmage and that we do everything we can to keep this quarterback in the pocket. He's done a really, really good job of scrambling. Just another person that you have to contend with in that regard. When we get him in a situation where it's 3rd and 7, 8 plus, we cannot allow him to gain a fresh set of downs by running all over the football field. So be a great challenge for us. We'll put forth our best effort, and we'll do everything we can to gain a victory. I'll take your questions.
Coach, I know you've been a part of the game planning throughout the season, but now taking over duties as play caller, aside from actually calling the plays, what has that changed about either your week or your game day?
It doesn't change a lot. I'm responsible for the entire plan. And previously, there was a lot of collaboration between myself and the rest of the staff, and that will remain true. We have an excellent staff, and we pull from all of our perspectives and knowledge and experiences. But at the end of the day, I've got final responsibility with every single thing that we do.
Is there any point this year where you called plays defensively, even if just for a brief stretch, if Matt had something else that he was occupied with?
I called the plays during the preseason.
Only then?
Yes.
Thomas said on Monday that he's not a micromanager, that he's just going to obviously let defense let you do your thing. But what have your interactions been like with him this week, just in terms of that game plan?
Yeah, we've had a chance to just talk about, how all three phases need to connect and how all three phases need to support each other so we can attain and achieve our ultimate goal, and that's to win the football game. And we just have to make sure that we're all aware of what we're doing. Thomas has been extremely supportive and encouraging, and I appreciate that, and we'll take that and run with it.
Eric, obviously Thomas steps into the top job, but how much responsibility has there been for you and Chris and Richard to help stabilize things after a tumultuous week?
The best thing you can do is just make sure that the players that are under your charge are confident, that they understand and are connected to the larger message, and that starts with the head coach. It starts with Thomas. And make sure within our responsibilities we're following through with the details of his leadership and the details of his philosophy and vision. You can't assume anything, especially when the roles are increased or they're different roles. You have to talk through all of those scenarios and make sure that as much as possible we can anticipate what we need to do and how we need to function when those situations come up, those 4th down situations, 2-minute, where the players have to be ready to go and you have to make the right calls.
Coach, what are the principles of kind of your philosophy of a defense? I mean, obviously, I'm sure you've been instilling them with the players since you got here, but it's a little different situation now that you're calling the plays. I mean, what does an Eric Washington-style defense look like when it's working at its most efficient level?
Well, it's going to be accentuated, and it's going to be led by our players. It's going to be led by their awareness, their physicality, their speed, their violence, and just making sure that there's clarity. It can't be any ambiguity on defense and then go out and make the kind of plays and play with the assertiveness that we want to play with. And so I want to start with that. I also want to make sure that we know who we are. The number one reason that people fail is you don't know who you are. I want to make sure from the front to back, every single person in that room, including the coaches, we know exactly what our identity consists of. And that whatever we decide to do, it's in the best interest of the talent that we have on the football field.
That's Bears defensive coordinator Eric Washington, a snippet from the media session today here at Hadassah. That last part got me excited because I want, he says what is very powerful, if you ask me, want them to understand completely what our identity is in defense. And that is to play very physical, violent, take the football away, stop the run.
Right, two things. It's a responsibility of the players. The coaches aren't going to be on the field. So it's going to be about the effort you give and the assignments that you have to make sure that you follow through. But one thing's going to be interesting is to follow the comparison between Deebo Samuel and DJ Moore, and then the Kittle against Cole Kmet, and then the scramble yards of Purdy to Caleb. I think when he identifies those three guys that they bring a unique skill set to their offense, I think the three guys that the Bears have bring a unique skill set to their part of what the Bears offense is. So the comparison of those numbers throughout the game will be interesting to follow and pay attention to. Got to
check the injury report, though, because still no practice this week for DJ Moore, working through a quad. Same story for DeAndre Swift, but Keenan Allen a full return to practice today. And same story for right tackle Darnell Wright.
That's good to hear. I mean, it's not good to hear about DJ Moore because he's an important part of the success of this offense. But Darnell Wright being back on the field, I think, again, solidifies the offensive line for, another game. And because they're going to have to be as big as contributors to the reason the offense is successful as any other position on the field.
And for the 49ers, the two big names still on that injury report, not practicing. Nick Bosa, he's missed a couple games with a hip and oblique. I think he might play in this game. Trent Williams, a little iffy in that regard. He's missed with an ankle injury. All right, we're going to take our first time out tonight here on Bears Weekly. Amen Ogbongbemiga will be our guest coming up next here on ESPN 1000. Bears Weekly on the Bears Radio Network. Welcome back to Bears Weekly, everybody, on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network with Super Bowl winning Bears guard Tom Thayer, Jeff Joniak, and Amen Ogbongbemiga, our special guest this week on Bears Weekly. I sweated that out all morning, just to let you know. I mean, I've called your plays all season,
you just said it right, but you made a slight mistake.
Oh no!
Amen.
What did I do?
No. It's Amen.
What did I say?
You said
Amen.
Right, so
I blew the whole thing, Tommy.
You told me earlier.
I know. I did. All right. Oh my gosh! How many times have people? I mean, obviously, this is always a topic, right? When someone first meets you, how many times have they wrecked it?
Oh man, I can't even count. It started when I was like young in grade school, kindergarten. I mean, from day one. At first, I kind of let it slide. Like, I let the teachers, like, kind of decipher, say, amen, amen. I was like, whatever, it don't matter. Then as I got older, I kind of, like, stepped my foot down.
Right, you take pride in it.
Yeah, so I was like, okay, nah, it's amen. And then,
it's a great first name, by the way. It really is.
Appreciate you.
Amen. I played with guys that kind of, they come in and they have a name that you never use their name. It's like Jay Hilgenberg is always Hilgy, Singletary or Fridge. William Perry was always Fridge. Do you have a go-to nickname that people that know you for multiple years in a row that they kind of go with and they stick with it, or is it Amen?
No, I mean, my brother had a nickname. They used to call him Ogbon, like the first 5 letters of my last name, but that never transitioned for me because Amen was simple enough, so they just called me Amen. And then this year, out of nowhere, people just started calling me Ayo, and just a nickname that stuck this whole year. So kind of half the team calls me that, half the team calls me Amen. So
I like Amen.
Yeah, I do too.
Yeah, stick with that one.
My mom would like that.
Yeah. And so would mine, to be quite honest.
Yes, sir.
Making sure I go to church every Sunday. All right. So what has this been like for you, hitting free agency for the first time and coming here to the Chicago Bears?
It's been great. Obviously, you would want like a different outcome to where we're at in this season. Coming in, I had a lot of high expectations. Still got a great locker room and great people on the team and everything, but just some things that didn't work out the way that we all envisioned at the beginning of the year. But it's been great. Like, I love the guys in the locker room. Like, we got a great relationship. We work hard for each other. We're grinding every day to keep improving. Even though things haven't gone the way, we still know the talent that we have in this locker room. And we just want to keep pushing forward, finish strong. That's the whole goal. Whatever happens. But, just keep chopping and, see where it takes us.
Amen, at the start of the season, I always take the roster of 90 guys, and I look at it and I go, okay, this guy's going to make it, this guy's going to make it. In your production in the preseason was so kind of overwhelming to me, and the way you ran, the athleticism you put on display, you always stayed on that list of guys who was going to make it. And, you know, did it surprise you considering the linebacker room that you are a part of, or did you know that this system fit you well, considering the linebacker responsibilities and the special teams expectations?
You know, I like to say it doesn't surprise me because I know what kind of work I put in, you know, what kind of effort I put into, you know, my craft, and, you know, I always make it a priority of mine to know what I'm doing, know my job, and then know the next person's job beside me to try to get everybody on the same page. So it wasn't a surprise to me. It might have been to you, per se. But,
no, it wasn't. I'm saying it wasn't a surprise to me.
To others, whatever. No. Thank you for believing in me. But, I put in a lot of work in this offseason. You know, it's not even a question to me. You know, that's like number one. Like, just got to be a reliable guy, got to be trustworthy. And then with that, like, you gain the trust of the people around the building too. So from the spring, you know, I was really like adamant about, you know, being a guy that they could throw in anywhere and he'll be able to do what he's supposed to do. And I keep trying to push forward. It's not perfect. It's never perfect, but I still strive to, you know, make that my goal. So, it was a good fit. Obviously, you know, I'm grateful for, you know, being able to be here. Like, the system was good for me. And, you know, I just, kept grinding, you know, kept working, putting it on display, and then, you know, they believed in me, and here we are.
And a critical piece on special teams tackle leader right now. We only see the tackles, but I'm sure there's more math. You guys have systems, grades, whatever, and I don't know if there's a chart that Richard Hightower keeps together that you're nodding your head, so there must be, correct?
Yeah,
yeah. So I'm assuming you're at the top of that list, too, but you're getting some strong competition from one of our favorite guys also is Daniel Hardy.
Yes, sir.
Because of the route took to get here, and that man plays with his hair on fire, as you do.
Yes, sir.
Those are two key pillars on that special teams unit. Just talk about how that's come together and how he's come together, how you have kind of led this unit in that regard.
Yeah, it's something that I always pride myself in, to be, like, you know, very versatile and, you know, be able to do multiple jobs. Like I said, you know, in a position that I'm in, that, you know, you kind of try to make a roster, you know, you try to be value to a roster, you have to be able to do multiple things. And, you know, a lot of people kind of have the notion that they don't want to play special teams and they don't want to do it, or they're forced to do it. But now you got to love it, you know, because if you're going out there at the end of the day, you're going against another man, you know, across from you that's kind of trying to whip your ass as well. So if you're not ready to go, no matter where you're on the field, you know, they'll embarrass you. So in regards to Hardy, yeah, he came in training camp, and, you know, he had the kind of same mindset, like, I'm trying to make the team, and he kind of always had like a selfless attitude, you know, going 100% every day, and he pisses off the O-line all the time how hard he goes in practice, because he's just a full gas all the time guy. And you saw it week one, you know, with the big plays he made, and throughout the whole season he's been consistent. So it's just an honor and a privilege, honestly, with what HT has done. You know, he's kind of put a lot of confidence in us, and he always, like, pushes us to be great. He doesn't, you know, hold no favorites, doesn't, you know, hold nobody to lower standard per se. Like, he's, like, holding everybody accountable and, you know, making sure that, you know, we're all in our details every single day. And, you know, it's proven to be, you know, kind of luxurious for us as we go through the season. And we just try to keep going as the year goes on.
Amen. When you talk about multiple talents as a special team, you got to know how to block as well as have to know how to tackle. But when you look at the linebacker position specifically, are there different traits that fit each linebacker position, or do you guys across the board have to have the traits to be able to play any of the linebacker positions on the Bears?
Yeah, technically you should, you know, be able to be a great communicator. That's number one of the position, because you got to talk to the front and tie in the back. So it's a position that you have to be great in communication, but technically you can play all three, but there's little specific intricacies of each position. But, you know, at the end of the day, you got to have FBI, football intelligence. You got to know how to read, you know, get downhill, hit, and tackle. And those are things that everybody in the room does well. And I saw it from day one when I got here. Like, everybody's really smart. It's definitely, like, the best room I've ever been a part of when it comes to, like, talent key and, like, just being able to play football, like, know the game of football. So everyone in the room is good, and I kind of take things from each one of their games to try to, you know, influence my game.
Amen Ogbongbemiga, our guest here on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network, Jeff Joniak and Tom Thayer. So there's so much to get into in so little time, because your background is really interesting. First of all, I always compliment, I always look for, when the draft starts, that draft season starts, and I start looking for players that I need to evaluate. have they been a captain? Well, you were a 3-time captain at Oklahoma State. I'm an Iowa Stater, by the way. I don't know if that matters to you. First team academic All-American, 4 years, finance and management major. And the only person in this room that I assume, Cal Webster, our media relations specialist here with us as well, that lived in 3 countries before high school.
Yeah.
With the crazy part, Nigeria, Houston, Texas, and then Calgary. I mean, that's a lot right there. What does this say about you, all this stuff?
Adaptable, kind of being a chameleon in my situation. You have to be able to adapt and, mend with different types of people, different diversities, different backgrounds. And I feel like that molded me into who I am today. And it's probably one of the greatest things that I didn't realize as a kid, now that I'm older, that was going to prep me for life, just being able to move, go from here, pack up here, go here, and you have to make friends. Whether you're friends or not, you have to be able to work with this person, whether you like them or not. And that relates to football in the locker room, too. I typically, relate with my teammates and stuff pretty well. I have great relationships, but, at the end of the day, you have to be able to, relate with this person, and that's just life, So that's one of the biggest blessings I take from, moving to 3 different countries, at such a young age. So I'm grateful for my parents for, doing that and, trying to give me the best life possible, but it definitely benefited me more than, the surface level.
I got a 2-part question for you, Amen. So I know you spent some time at Notre Dame, the school in Calgary. When you go to school in Canada at Notre Dame, do you think about Notre Dame in the that's where I went to college at Notre Dame. And I was wondering if it's like kids think about, okay, I'll go to Notre Dame in Calgary. I want to go to Notre Dame in the U.S. That's question number 1. Question number 2 is I know you redshirted your freshman year. Were you ready to go as a freshman, or did that redshirt freshman year benefit you to be more prepared as a second-year freshman?
So first question, yes, Notre Dame was one of my favorite schools. I actually took a visit. I thought they were going to offer me. They didn't end up offering me. And I went to a camp, everything. It was a crazy story with that. My head coach was a big Notre Dame fan. So, that was a team I was always watching. Funny enough, one of my teammates, Drew Tranquil, when I was with the Chargers, he was a Notre Dame guy. And, unfortunate situation, I saw him get hurt on a celebration a couple years back. And I was like, yo, that's you. I looked up to you. You were one of the great players in Notre Dame. And, I ended up being teammates with him. So that was really cool. That was a great person to kind of mentor me in my first years of my career. Second question.
Redshirting your freshman year, did it help you be ready your second year?
I say it was definitely beneficial. I thought I was ready when I first came in. I prepped myself to be ready, but, looking back at it, I probably wasn't ready to play right away. Now, if I got thrusted into the role, I'm sure I would have been fine. But I think that, redshirt, being able to work out, get stronger, really take advantage of, transforming your body early. It definitely helped me out, and it propelled me, like I said. Also, the scheme had changed early in my career. I switched defensive coordinators, and I think that helped me, being able to transition, just learning, and then I was able to go from there on.
All right. Honestly, we could talk to you for a half hour here. I'm not even scratching the surface, so I hope you'll come back someday. But a couple of nuggets here before we go. And you'll have to answer on a shorter side of it. But Walmart, what's it mean to you?
How'd you know about that? Walmart, I worked there. That was my job when I was 15, 16 years old. I opened a Walmart by my house. They were opening up. And, I was grateful for that opportunity to be able to work and make some money. That's actually the Notre Dame story. I saved up and then was able to buy a flight, with the help of my brother to go to a camp. It's called Irish Invasion. And, it's just I remember my freshman year in college, there was a question, how many of y'all had a job? And it was only me and one other player. His name is actually Justice Hill with the Ravens. We raised our hands. We were the only ones who had jobs prior to college. So it was just kind of my journey, my path, just grinding, working hard, doing whatever it takes. And, now I'm here and I'm blessed. I'm blessed for all those things that came with it.
Yeah, because it reminds have you met Israel Adonijah?
No, I know who that is, though.
You got to meet him. Nigerian also. Parents moved to Manitoba.
Yep.
And he saved money, put together his own tapes, sent them out to every team, got a tryout. Nobody came to his, except for the Cleveland Browns. Nobody came. He did it by himself. VHS tapes.
Crazy.
So the desire, and there are so many Nigerian players in the National Football League now. I mean, it's crazy. Like, you guys are athletic, gifted, big, strong, fast, nasty, all of it. It's a great, I think it's a great pride thing in the league to have that influence.
Yes,
so
sir.
appreciate everything you're doing for the Chicago Bears.
Thank you, man.
And had so many more questions, but we'll have to do it another time.
No problem.
Appreciate it. Good luck on Sunday against the San Francisco 49ers.
Let's go.
All right, let's get it. All right.
Thank you,
We'll
Andrew.
continue with our show after this break on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network. Well, if you have a new or gently used coat laying around, head to your local Jewel Osco until February 10th and donate one of your new or gently used coats to the 36th annual Chicago Bears Coat Drive and help keep Chicagoans warm this winter. I mean, I walked out of the building yesterday, Tom, unaware of what the conditions were. And I just wasn't paying attention, unlike you who check the weather now routinely. That hawk was flying, and I was ill-prepared for the long walk in the parking lot. And, wow, that was crazy, and it's pretty cold out there. So help everybody out. Get your coats in that coat drive and help people out.
Right. And it's going for a couple more months. So if it's not done this weekend, it can be done whenever you get that opportunity. And don't pass up the opportunity to help someone stay warm this winter.
Tommy, offensive assistants were available today. It's actually it's a position coaches, and it's shrunk because of the new duties. Obviously, Thomas Brown and Chris Beatty. We're going to hear from him here in a moment. But Chris Morgan talked quite a bit about some of his guys, and he was asked about Coleman Shelton and how he's performed over the course of the season. Gave him a lot of high praise for just the diagnosing of defenses, the fronts, helping Caleb with that, and then a lot of love for Matt Pryor, and thinks that he's playing the best football of his career right now, and the players love him. He's a leader not just on the offensive line, but also in that locker room. So that's good to hear about a former 49ers going back where he played in a Super Bowl team a year ago.
Hey, both of these guys came in as backups, and both of them have become starters and held down the job. And when an offensive line compliments you saying you're probably playing the best football of your career, that's high praise. But just think of what Coleman Shelton has done for a rookie quarterback, taking over for Ryan Bates, who was injured early this year. And there's a lot that goes into development of an offensive line, solidifying the middle, making sure that you're consistent with the quarterback, making sure the tempo, the rhythm, that guys are on the same page. And listen, I'm super impressed with what Coleman Shelton has been able to do all season long when you're kind of thrust into a position that came unexpectedly.
So over the last 3 weeks, since Thomas Brown has been promoted to offensive coordinator, now interim head coach, the Bears offense with 22 third down conversions, tied for most in the NFL, 46 second half points, top 6 in the NFL, red zone, 67%, tied for third best in the NFL. Arrow definitely up, Tommy.
Oh, yeah. We've been talking a little bit about it this week from the podcast and stuff. Some of that efficiency, if it transfers to the first half, I think you're really going to help the overall ability of this football team and the defense to stay in that attack mode. So let's increase that scoring from not only the second half and fourth quarter, but to the first 2 quarters as well.
And then we learned from Chris Beatty, again, the wide receivers coach, now with the title of offensive coordinator. He won't be calling the plays, but he's been behind the scenes doing a lot more with Thomas Brown starting 3 weeks ago. He details some of that right here.
Started doing a lot more hands-on stuff with him and working hand in hand with him. So that part became a little bit more of my everyday than just the normal coaching the receivers group and doing one part of the game plan for Shane. But as far as this week, it hasn't really been too much different.
Chris, can you explain for us just a little bit of how this is going to work, the logistics?
Yeah, we've worked together the last 3 weeks. I've done a lot of the pass game and then I give him some, things that I see, give him a ton of suggestions during the middle of the game as far as, hey, think about this on the next play, think about this as the next third down, think about this as the next situation when we get the ball back. These are some of the things to think about. So try to be a play ahead for him, so he can have eyes on the future while he's thinking about right now, because that's part of the play calling process for most. So I've been trying to help him with that the whole time. that he took over. So that part won't really change. I'll probably have a little bit more to say with the time management part of it. Obviously, we had some issues with that, so we're going to try to streamline that a little bit to make that a little less hectic, maybe on the headset, and more of a couple heads getting together before everything happens as opposed to as it happens. So those things we're trying to work through and fit those things in.
Are we going for a final play or not? Are we calling timeout? Should we challenge this thing? Is that operation, do you feel comfortable where it's at right now?
I do. And time management, clock management, those things have been a big part of my career since I was a high school coach. So one of the first things that Thomas and I talked about was how to streamline that and to make it smoother. So we've talked about that. We went through the process of trying how we're going to simulate that in the game and trying to get that to where it's not an issue. Trying to be a play ahead. I think that's part of the issue is we haven't been ahead of the game. We've been a little bit late, and that's part of it. That's a hard thing. It's easy on the couch. It's like I watch games this weekend, and I'm like, oh yeah, I would do this or do that, and then my wife is like, it's not that easy, and she's right. She's almost always right. So at the end of the day, we're going to work on trying to be better at that. Because it's extremely important, especially all the close games that we've had.
Chris, how much have you worked with Caleb? What's been your role with him over the last 6-7 months?
Yeah, so at first my role was kind of the one to I jumped on Caleb a couple times during, because it was like, hey, we need to get these things right within you and us seeing things the same way, and that was a learning process, all of us trying to learn each other and how we work together. And then as we've gotten to know each other, and I've known Caleb for a long time through recruiting and things like that, you kind of see how people work and how people learn best. We're going to be demanding on him, and that's part of it. And that's the way it should be. We're going to make sure that he does things the right way, and that's part of it, and that's the way it should be. So at the end of the day, I want to make sure that this passing game part of it looks the way I want it to look and the way we want it to look. And he's been great about it. He wants to learn too. He doesn't have all the answers, and he knows that.
What changes about your room?
Not much. Keenan's really the coach. I'm joking, but not really.
Right.
Because Keenan,
You think you're joking, or
does he think I'm joking?
yeah? Does he think you're joking, or does he think he's?
Keenan could be a coach. Keenan's the smartest player I've ever seen. He's the smartest football person, not just player. Like he sees stuff. Like as a coach, I sit back and I say, "Hey, that was 3 weak," and then Keenan says, "No, it was 2 sky," and I sit back and say, "Well, I better go check." When everybody else comes to the side and they say, "Hey, coach, it was 2 sky," no, it was 3 weak. I don't need to go check. So he sees stuff different than the rest of us. He's a play ahead, just like a coach would be. So what he has done over the last 3 weeks since the initial change was he's been kind of my conduit for those guys. So he runs a meeting in between while they're doing the special teams. He gets all the offensive skill in there and does a meeting. He knows how I want it to look. And so those guys, they've been joking that he's saying my sayings, which I'm good with that. I mean, if he's saying my stuff, then that means he respects what I'm doing. So, but that being said, he's taking a little bit bigger of a leadership role because he's really not as outgoing as you guys think he is. But he's been a little bit more.
All right, so that's Chris Beatty. Some interesting stuff. Obviously, they work together with the L.A. Chargers, so they know each other very well. But what great confidence to put in a guy who's got a great record. He's going to the Hall of Fame, unbelievable career in Keenan Allen.
Yeah, you don't come across those guys all the time. It kind of sounds like Singletary and Buddy Ryan. As strict and stern Buddy Ryan was, he respected what Mike Singletary had to say when he came to the sideline and gave an opinion of what they should be looking for and what they're looking at. So I think any coach that has a player with that type of intelligence is super fortunate because they can both teach and learn from each other.
All right, we're going to step away for another break here on Bears Weekly. We'll hear from Richard Hightower, also Tim Ryan, the 49ers radio analyst, also to join us, the ex-Bear. It's all coming up here on Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 and the Bears Radio Network. This segment of Bears Weekly brought to you by CDW. People to get it. Jeff and Tom with you on Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 and the Bears Radio Network. Get ready for the 49ers. I want to circle back real quick to Beatty, Tom, because he worked with Thomas at Wisconsin. So they got to know each other. That's when they first met. So the things he saw then are the same things he sees now. He's not changed a bit. There's leadership about him. And the one thing, and I have to say, this is in any walk of life, and I think you would agree as an athlete as well, if you prove to somebody you can handle the responsibility, you're going to get more responsibility, and the more you demonstrate that you can handle it, the more you become involved in a leadership role. And not everybody can do that, obviously. There's only so many people. Not everybody can lead. Everybody leads differently. But if you're the same guy every day, and you're making an impact that way, you're going to get opportunities, and that's the case right now with Thomas Brown.
Right, but, these guys, they work with the quarterback position, and there's no more position that's more evident than the quarterback position of exactly what you're saying. So I think they have the ability to judge that position specifically that, okay, this guy is getting a grasp of this portion of the playbook, so now let's install this part. Or this is what this defense is going to offer us, so let's give him an opportunity to run this style of play or this style of pass opportunity. So, those guys, they're working with the position that you see evidence of that more than any other position in football.
And these guys are working for their coaching lives. They are figuring out they're diving in deep. They have to.
Well, that's part of the everyday occurrence of a coaching position. Because it's like the restaurant business. You never over the hill. Everything's downhill from here. We over the hump. Everything can just run perfectly on its own. No, you go to that job every single day, and you have to succeed the day. And coaching or something as difficult as running a restaurant on a daily basis, there are some similarities.
All right, Richard Hightower, our special teams coordinator at the podium today, on how the environment is for him as the only guy, honestly, in his same position as he was when this all got started.
So just always play smart, sound, and relentless, and leave it all out there and play for one another. We have been talking, following Coach Brown's lead, obviously with unity and getting everything connected. So that's what we've been. That's been preached throughout. So it's been outstanding, and our guys are upbeat and they're ready to rock and roll like they always are.
What can you do beyond your actual job description to help kind of facilitate a smooth transition this week after the change from Matt Thomas?
Yeah, I think I do what I have always done and do whatever is asked of me. And then always, I think that in any job, you go above and beyond to try to help the people that you work for. So that's what I've always done, and that's what I'm always going to do is to help and try to get my guys ready to play. The best thing I can do is have my guys ready to play. That helps everybody.
What will you take away from 2 years of working for Matt Eberflus?
Yeah, I'm appreciative of Coach. Coach brought me here for a second time. Obviously, you guys know my love for the city of Chicago, and I've been here more than once, so I'm appreciative to him and Ryan Poles for bringing me here, and I always take away the way he treated me, and he always treated me with respect and dignity, and I appreciate that from Coach.
And he was with the 49ers on 2 occasions as well, has the same feeling about Kyle Shanahan, and the guy I got to mention for this week is Deebo Samuel. In the snow in Buffalo, went for 208 in kick returns. The week before against the Packers that week, 87-yard kickoff return. So that was called back, though, by what I feel, and I guess the writers feel the same, was not really a holding penalty on former Bears tight end Rich Saubert. But, don't let Deebo get going in the return game. And I don't know what else they have up their sleeve, but their special teams unit has struggled this year in San Francisco.
Deebo Samuel, though, Jeff, he's committed to the point of attack, and he doesn't shy away from contact. And that's what makes him such a difficult tackle. Because if you're a defensive player or you're an offensive player that's playing on the kickoff coverage team, and you're seeing a Deebo Samuel coming at you 100 miles an hour with no hesitation, no slowdown, no hitch in his step, that you better be as willing to tackle as he is at hitting you. And that's where the competition begins.
This segment of Bears Weekly brought to you by CDW. People to get it. We'll break one more time. Tim Ryan joins us next here on Bears Weekly on ESPN 1000 of the Bears Radio Network.
You're tuned into Bears Weekly with Jeff Joniak on the Bears Radio Network.
This segment of Bears Weekly brought to you by Athletico Physical Therapy. Visit athletico.com to request an in-clinic or a virtual appointment and start feeling better tomorrow. Jeff and Tom and our good friend and former Chicago Bear Tim Ryan on our Bears Etc. podcast. You can check that out. It's dropped this week. Here's a portion of it as we got into just how hard it is to win in the National Football League, even for a team that was in the Super Bowl a year ago. And for the past 5 years, they've been outstanding.
We're able to put together from 19. And, so much of it is about it's really, at the end of the day, it's not about plays, it's about players. It's about having the talent and about having finishers and guys that can go out there and win. There's no magic wand to winning or losing. I just always boil it down to one thing. Whip the guy's ass in front of you and you got a pretty good chance. At the end of the day, to win games. But, when Kyle got here, things flipped. And he was a great hire by Jed York. And, tried, Jimmy Garoppolo came in because it was bad early, obviously, trying to do it with other guys. Jimmy came in here and Jimmy with that, that ability just to rip it and get it out quick, and all those in breaking routes over the middle of the field was really suited to his style. Then some injuries started cropping up on him, but certainly got us all the way to the Super Bowl and 19, the 20 Super Bowl to play Kansas City. Unable to finish that game at the end. Defense dropped the ball a couple times in terms of the coverage. Jimmy overthrew Emmanuel Sanders and what possibly was going to get over the hump at that point. Didn't happen. Brutal. But to have so many of those players still young and Kittle, Fred Warner, Nick Bosa, all those guys were still really, really young. And then to go out and the COVID year happened, and then Jimmy started having some injuries, some challenges started happening, some contractual issues, and then getting Trey Lance and where they got him, set this organization back just because he wasn't ready to go in terms of the playmaker and a seamless playmaker and a great kid. And, but it was a challenge for him. And so they've since moved on, but it's been hard to recover from the draft picks that were given up and how the draft situation was during that. But still able to win a lot of games, get to NFC championships. When Jimmy got hurt and Brock got in there, and I remember when Brock got here out of Iowa State, and I watched him play in college, but I promise you he wasn't here a week in his rookie minicamp. And, they always do, they do the one-on-ones and the scout team, third team quarterback goes and throws linebackers on running backs and tight ends when they do the one-on-ones. And I'm watching him, and that's usually there's going to be some space, those running backs coming out of the back, one-on-one, there's no lineman. Same with tight ends, but Brock's putting everything on the money on time. I'm like, holy cow. And then I watch him in some team stuff. He's out there with the third team and with a lot of rookies, and it's the end of practice, and I'm looking around. I'm like, is that not the best quarterback we've had here since it was probably my 8th year at the time? I said, since I've been here in terms of reading the coverage and delivering the mail. This guy's just bang, bang, bang.
And the end result, we have to cut that short, but finished 4th in the MVP voting last season and helped them get to the Super Bowl last year. This year, things have been struggling. He's got a shoulder, Tom, but he's still a dangerous guy.
Yeah, he is, but, you can't let him be dangerous. I think it's up to the Bears defensive line to keep him inside the pocket, rush with your hands up. If he's an undersized quarterback, then try to deflect or get some of those passes to bounce off your hands and create interceptions with them. So I think the Bears defensive line have a good opportunity to get at Brock Purdy. They have some offensive line injuries and issues that need to pay attention to in San Francisco. So go Bears defense.
And without CMC, Christian McCaffrey, 10 touchdowns, 7 interceptions, but with them, 47 touchdowns, 16 interceptions, but a 109 quarterback rating. That does make a difference. They also lost their backup running back, Jordan Mason. So it's going to be a fresh set. Isaac Garanato, a rookie out of Wisconsin/Louisville. Izzy Abanaconda could be in the mix here as well. The thing about this in our final 30 seconds is Kyle Shanahan knows how to run the football. So it almost doesn't matter who's running. Now, granted, CMC is a different level athlete. He can do both. But they get 100-yard games from rushers. They really do. They're 23-8 with a 100-yard rusher under Shanahan.
Yeah, but that's what leads me to the offensive line. They got significant injuries on the offensive line. Trent Williams is one of the most dominating left tackles in the league, and he may not play. So the Bears have to take advantage of what they don't have as much as what they do have.
All right, Big Tom, we're out of time. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Amen Ogbongbemiga. I knew that would be hard to say. We'll just call him A.O., our guest this week. Thanks to our producers. Coming up next, Bleck and Abdallah. Thanks for listening to ESPN Chicago and the Bears Radio Network. Good night, everybody.
Thank you for listening to the Chicago Bears Network presentation of Bears Weekly, hosted by the mayor of Bearsville, Jeff Joniak, and Surfmaster Tom Thayer. Podcasts are available on the Chicago Bears official app, brought to you by Verizon and Apple Podcasts. Bears Weekly has been brought to you by Miller Lite.